Okay, so today we're having a chat with assistant coach Ed from HP3, talking about preparation for long adventure, sort of gravel rides, off-road rides, sort of longer sportives or audaxes, these type of things. And Ed's got a wealth of experience for these crazy long distance or off-road adventures, as well as other endurance sports in the past. So I wanted to pick your brains on the kind of preparation that you go through in the week or a couple of weeks before embarking on one of these adventures. You and I are off to Kielder next week for the Dirty Reiver event, so that's what's prompted this conversation. But these kind of tips will apply to any of these events that we're discussing. So, from your kind of experience, what are some of the things that you go through? Maybe initially thinking about our steeds, our bikes. So, what are the kind of final preparation things that you go through in terms of making sure that your bike is ready?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously all the hard work has been done in the training. You're ready fitness wise, should be. Hopefully. It's just about de-risking what's going to happen on the day. So anything that could go wrong, try and foresee it, avoid it, have a plan for that. So yeah, your bike's probably done a lot of hard work over the last 6 months as well as you have. Um, it's probably a bit late now for Riva, but my bike's in for a service currently. Um, check your bike, any damage, frames or wheels, your tires all right. Brake pads often get missed out and they inevitably fail on race day.
Mm.
Tubeless sealant, if you haven't had to deal with a tubeless puncture, you probably haven't replaced your sealant for 3-4 months. Just checking your bolts are all tight and working, cables, hoses, any bearings, batteries. Certainly a couple of events I've done, if I've been relying on my power meter, it's always decided to die on race day as well.
Mhm.
We're going to replace my shoes for next week, but I've mistimed that, so I'm certainly at least going to replace my cleats, so they're good. Just make sure everything's working, because the last thing you want on race day is some trivial little thing to go wrong that you're going to spend 20 minutes fixing on the trail side.
Absolutely. So if you haven't got those mechanical skills, then it's booking into your local bike shop and getting the mechanic to give your bike the once over. That's it. I put new tyres on my bike last week. Good point about checking the battery on the power meter. I haven't done that one yet, but I'll have the spare batteries for the drive chain, because yeah, I'm on an electronic group set, and I've had that happen in the past where the batteries die mid-event, and you have got no gears, and that's an interesting experience. So, okay.
Yeah.
What about any other sort of kit beyond the bike itself? Is there anything else that obviously there's a required kit list for some of these events?
Yeah, I was interested to see that with Riva. They have a mandatory kit list, and I want to lay that out later and make sure I've got everything. Yeah, no, I have. Also, where am I going to put it? I've got some big saddle packs
Hmm.
and some smaller kit. I probably haven't got exactly the right saddle pack for this, so we'll see how that works out. Obviously, a toolkit. Okay, you've got your bike ready. You've tried to de-risk everything that can go wrong with that, but at the end of the day, um, being able to fix the chain, being able to tighten up some bolts, have some zip ties on hand to strap anything down that's gone wrong. Just anything you would take out on a normal long ride, you probably want on this kind of event, because you're not going to be relying on service vehicle or
Mm.
getting to a feed station where there might be a pump or something. So yeah, all that usual stuff we're going to want to carry with us. Spare kit and clothes, not just the mandatory kit, but thinking about what we're going to wear on the day. Last year it was stupidly wet and rainy, which didn't look that pleasant. This year, hopefully better, not sure yet. But
Mm.
yeah, what am I going to wear if it's particularly cold? What am I going to wear if it's pouring down all day? Do I want to carry some spare gloves? That's always a nice mental boost if your gloves are soaked through. Worth those extra 100 grams or whatever they're gonna take you.
Hmm.
So that kind of thing. Just think about everything that's going to be on the bike when you leave, and everything that's going to be on you.
Yeah.
About the mental walkthrough. Think about just think about all that stuff really. So you're ready on the day.
That's it. And Weaver, there's the option of a drop bag as well. So you mentioned about the gloves there, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to put a spare pair of gloves in my drop bag, so that that's it. If it is wet, or if you have come off and your hands got wet as you've maybe gone down in a stream, then having a fresh pair of gloves would be potentially a day saver, a race saver. There's nothing worse than having cold hands that then fail to function. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure about how drop bags work on Reaver, but a lot of the time from other events, it's a great idea having a drop bag with spare kit or a spare inner tube, all that kind of stuff that you might have used. The reality of finding it and collecting it during mid-race mode can be a bit of a panic situation, but it's nice to know it's there if you do need it, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. So the next sort of question would be around fueling and nutrition for these. Obviously, there are aid stations, but primarily that's to sort of supplement what you're carrying yourself. What's your sort of preferred nutrition strategy for these type of maybe single day events rather than some of the multi-day things that you've done in the past? If we focus more on the single stage.
Yeah, so this is a bit different from what I usually do, being technically a race. It's a single stage. You've got the feed stations and support. If we're not going to sit down and have a cup of tea and a croissant for half an hour or a sandwich. So what I really need to focus on for myself is just making sure I'm keeping that fuel going in all the time and not relying on stopping every few hours for a cup of tea or something. You're actually trying to get somewhere at the end of the day and put yourself down a decent time. So I typically don't use a carb drink, but I'm going to have some of that on the bike for this. Have the chews, which I find really good for when I don't really fancy eating anything. They still go down nice and they've got a slightly different flavour. I'll always be carrying something savoury or some solids, food to eat, especially over this kind of duration. Your stomach just gets full of energy, food and fluids, and you want something to really get to work on, just stop your stomach sloshing around.
Yeah.
And probably in a bladder, I'll have an electrolyte drink as well, just to make sure those are being up as we go.
So you're taking a bladder as well as bottles, then, are you?
Yeah, one of the interesting things I find for the off-road stuff is I tend to drink less from a bottle when I'm off-road because you've usually got your hands on the bars, and that opportunity just to grab a swig doesn't always come up. Or you need a little more time and thought for that. So I find I hydrate better if I've got a bladder that I can just stick it in my mouth and then let it go when I'm getting to something technical that needs my hands back again.
Yeah, that's a good tip. That yes, it's not something I tend to use, a bladder, but yeah, maybe I need to think about that one for next week. And then in terms of reminding yourself to drink, I mean, something I do is set an alarm on my watch or my computer, so that'll sort of beep every 20 minutes to remind me to take a drink or to have something to eat. So there's that sort of regular feeding. So just setting up a timer alert on your Garmin or whatever it'll be that you're using. They all have these options of having a timer alert. So that's a useful way to check in with yourself. Okay, what about sort of pacing these things? It's maybe a steady start, but then do people then tend to tear off? How do you tend to kind of pace these events?
Yeah, I can't speak for other people really, but some people seem just to be able to go off at a crazy pace and maintain it. Find some people have a strategy where they ride very hard, but then they rest a bit longer when you see them at a feed station or something. For me, it's more about just finding that zone you can be in all day basically and keep you going. So we talked about power monitors. I guess we're both using those. Maybe not everybody is, but I try and push the idea that it's not the be all and end all. It's a great guide for how hard you're working, along with heart rate, but especially along with feel on the day, because different weather, you probably haven't slept that well the night before. If it's warm or cold, that all affects your heart rate. And if it feels like you're working hard, you probably are at the end of the day. So I want to use all those three things to build a picture of how things are going, not just rely on power or rely on heart rate as we go. One of the things I've got in the training plans recently is this Goldilocks pacing set, where we know what all-day power level should be, but in the set we play a little bit below that, a little bit above it, a little bit on the level. So it's just dialing in mentally and how you feel that sweet spot, not sweet spot power, but the sweet spot for the event
Yes.
power. So even if your power meter dies, you're not reliant on that to know what a good pacing situation is.
Yeah, you really kind of learn that feel. I've actually got that training session to do tomorrow. One of your Goldilocks sessions I'm doing tomorrow. That's it. So we know that overall for these events, it's that even pacing that produces the best performance. So making sure you control that effort. So yeah, using your power numbers as maybe a ceiling, not letting yourself go over that. Having your heart rate again as having a ceiling there, so you're not letting yourself go over that. But also the feel. So how do you feel on the day? You're going to feel strong and excited at the start, but it's just controlling that. And then another tip from our sports psychologist Amy is keep asking yourself this question of, could you be going faster? Could you be going harder? And if the answer is no, then you're probably going too hard. Back off. If the answer is maybe, then you're probably about right. Then just stay where you are. And if the answer is a strong yes, then maybe push a little bit harder. But on the whole, yeah, just try and keep that sustained pace all the way through. So what
Yeah,
are
that's one of the things I find useful with the power meter is not necessarily in the early stages of the event, but when I've wanted to perform a little bit more on, say, a 200k or DAX or something, then knowing that in theory I can be maintaining this power. So in the second half of the event, when you're tired, you're mentally tired, actually looking at the power and going, okay, in theory, I could be working harder than this. Why am I not? Then that gives you a bit of an incentive to see if you can push the power on a bit and maintain that pace when you might normally be flagging mentally.
Okay, so then what about other sort of mental preparation? What else do you do prior to these events?
Yeah, well, there's a lovely link from the HP3 page on race imagery, which is something I might have to do. It talks about, just running through the whole day in your head, maybe even writing down a story of how the day is going to go. That was kind of really interesting, just thinking about where will you be, what will you be doing, how will you feel at any stage in the race. Maybe if you know the route well or the climbs, you can link it up that way. Then having kind of mental checklists for on the day problem solving. If you're going to be out for 9-10 hours, 200k, if you're very lucky, you'll have the perfect day, but almost always something will not be quite right, whether it's a mechanical or a problem with the fueling or the hydration. So just having that checklist, you can, maybe it's along with the timer on your Garmin or your watch that says, okay, how am I feeling now? Am I where I want it to be? Is my effort okay? Have I been drinking enough? Have I been eating enough? Is there anything I should be doing different now, rather than just carrying on with something that's not working blindly, or is going to cause the problem later on? Just having that chance to reflect and say, what should I do differently now to fix whatever's going on at that time in the race?
That's it. So staying in the moment, isn't it? This sort of mindfulness of just checking in and seeing, right, what am I doing right now, and what are my actions right now that can improve my performance? And that might just be carry on as you are, or it might be, like you say, have you eaten anything? Have you drunk anything? And just constantly sort of checking in, just doing that sort of mental checklist of how's the body feeling, how's the bike working, so yeah, constantly reviewing that and staying, as we say, in the moment. But then what about sort of dealing with, you say about, if we're lucky we have the perfect day, but when do we ever have that perfect day? There's always something that goes wrong, and it's how we then react and respond to that. So what are some of the things that can often go wrong in these events, and how do you then deal with them in that moment?
Yeah, well, I think of anything like having mechanical or a problem with the bike, or if you're just feeling bad or slow or weak for any reason, it's not letting that get into your head really. Don't let it mess with your head or with your plan. It's okay when things go wrong. That's part of the game really. So don't ignore it. You've got to acknowledge it. Say, this isn't working, and then just allow yourself to. Okay, you can be upset about it, not what you wanted, but being upset about it isn't going to fix it or move you on. So think about why that's happened, what you can do to improve it. If your fueling's not going in right, then because you haven't had enough hydration or enough electrolytes, then maybe you're just sipping water or fluids for half an hour, and then seeing if you can get some fuel in.
Yeah, that's it.
But just having all this, acknowledge it, look into what's wrong, and then use your toolkit that hopefully you built up from training, some experience in other events, just to work on and fix it. And keep you going.
Yeah, so I like people to actually kind of write down everything that they think could possibly go wrong in that event, in that race, and then write down what that solution is going to be, so that when it does go wrong, there's no panic, there's no stress. It's this case of, right, this has happened, this is what I need to do about it. So chain breaks, okay, fine, I've got chain link in my toolbox, I've just got to stop, get that fixed, crack on. There are obviously mechanical support at a lot of these events. There may be the aid stations, so it might be getting to the aid station and get that fixed again, or if it's a snap cable or puncture or anything sort of mechanical like that, make sure that you know how to fix it and that you practiced in training, so that if it happens on race day, you know what to do about it. You mentioned there about sort of nutrition, and if you start feeling nauseous, not going down, exactly that, just back off the pace, sips of water, and things will right themselves, and then try something different. So yeah, it's just kind of going through all those different possibilities. One of mine is I wear contact lenses, and I've had that experience of going down a descent and the wind's rushing over my eye, and suddenly contact lens disappears. So always making sure I've got some spare contact lenses in my bag, in my pocket as well. Thankfully, that's not happened for quite a long time now, but that's always a fear of mine of what could go wrong in a race. So it's just all these different possibilities, and we try and come up with those strategies of actions on, if this happens, what do we do? Okay, is there anything else that you sort of think about in this final week before a big event? Or have we kind of touched on most things there?
No, I think we covered it mostly. I mean, I'm not that familiar with the Reiver route per se, but I want to, look at that, get there, get the top tube sticker that tells me where all the climbs are and things like that. Let's say think about drop bag, just really event-specific things, and then maybe a little bit. These events, you're always you're almost never doing it from home, right? You're almost always traveling the day before, sleeping somewhere unusual. Just having in my mind like when the start time is, what time I've got to get up, where am I, not even where am I going to be during the race, but where am I going to be in the day before, where am I going to get my meal from the night before, how am I going to make sure I'm in a good state on race morning.
That's it. It's kind of working backwards from the race start, isn't it? And sort of planning that timeline. So yeah, exactly, what are you going to have for breakfast that morning? What are you having for your evening meal? How are you getting there? Where are you going to be? How long is it going to take to get from your accommodation to the start? All these type of things. So there's no stress and worry on race morning, because it's all been planned. If you are traveling long distances for these events, I think it's always useful to then also think about, where's the nearest bike shop, or things like that. There's going to be obviously the expo for this event, but other ones there may not be. So it's a question of, if you get there and suddenly find that you've broken something, what are you going to do? Where's the nearest bike shop? So if you've already recce'd that in advance, just going on, Google Maps or whatever, then again, you've got the answer to that question if it should arise. Okay, cool. Well, I think we sort of covered quite a few different things and get people thinking about what you need to be doing in that final week before a race. So hopefully that's been useful. And you've already mentioned there's a few resources on the HP3 website. So again, people can have a look at that to think about that final race prep in terms of mental preparation, physical preparation, sort of tactics, things like that. So yeah, have a look at the website, and if anybody's at Dirty Reiver, we'll see you next weekend. Thanks for your time, Ed.
Yeah, no problem. See you on the start line.